This is Johnny B. Bad, the bad man of World Championship Wrestling. You're watching Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast. And if you don't, it's going to be a blessing to teach you a lesson.
You're listening to Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast with your hosts, two guys you've never heard of. And now, the man who got his ass chewed out by Flash Gordon, Metal Ed. And the man who was hired by Tony Atlas to protect his sacred artwork, Johnny O.
Welcome, everyone, to Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Metal Ed, and with me, as always,
joined via satellite, Johnny O. Of course, it's not satellite, but
hey,
I like to think it is.
Don't break the illusion. So we just came back from Super Mega Fest, and we did an interview with Tony Atlas. So some of you may be confused by our intro. I was introduced as the man that got his ass chewed out by Flash Gordon. And that's actually a true story. It happened this weekend.
So we went to Super Mega Fest, as we just said, and interviewed Tony Atlas. We had the pleasure of spending the whole day with him. It was just amazing. And the guy's arm is definitely bigger than my whole head. The guy still works out, still benches 350 pounds. We're going to have that interview probably in the next, probably a month and a half. We have about 3 or 4 other interviews to get to first to release, and then we'll get to that one. So the story of Mr. Metal Ed getting his ass chewed out by Flash Gordon. We'll let Metal Ed tell you this one.
Yeah, so we're at this convention, and there's like 15 people there, 20 tops. So I think to myself, Ed, why don't you go on Facebook Live and start hyping this place? You know, make people want to come here and show all my friends, all the cool nostalgia people that were there, not just wrestlers. By the way, we ran into Maria Kanellis, the show. We met the DiBiase posse, Ted Sr. and Jr. That's going to be exciting when we get to them. So long story short is every single person at this convention was very happy to just wave at the camera and my live and say hello. But here comes Flash Gordon. First, I walk by and I announce, hey, Flash Gordon is here, because I'm showing every single person that's here. And like Orphan Annie was there, and Tony Atlas, of course, DiBiase was on his way, Maria Kanellis, and Bruce Leroy, for those of you who watch Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, one of my favorite movies. And he's on the phone.
I didn't know who the heck the guy was. I never seen that movie. And Metal Ed calls me over and goes, John, come here. So I went over there. We went and shot a TikTok video on Metal Ed's TikTok. And what is that? Your TikTok thing, so people can see it?
All right, I'll give that information out, but I warn you, enter at your own risk. You can find me on TikTok at Darth_Rivera. Again, Darth_Rivera. So the first time I walked by, I just panned. As we say in the industry, I panned, which means I did a sweep with the camera just to show a view of what everybody and everything that was there. He's on the phone. So he instantly thinks I'm trying to record his business call, which I wasn't. And then people started joining my live, including my family members and friends. And of course, I walk up to Maria Kanellis. Now, my friend Johnny is burnt from the neck down, and he's a really great guy. I've known Johnny for the last 21 years, if you can believe it. He's always been like a little brother to me, even though he's actually 4 days older than me. We have near the same birthday. And so Maria Kanellis says hello to John. And then my brother Woody says, oh, crap, Flash Gordon is there. Tell him I said hi. So, of course, I go up and say, hey, my brother Woody says hi. Can you say hi back? And he says, we need to talk. Then he proceeds to tell me that before I stick a camera in anyone's face, he doesn't care if it's the street sweeper, the garbage man, Johnny O, Metal Ed. Doesn't matter. You need to ask their permission. Okay, I get it. But he keeps yelling at me after I've said I've gotten it like 4 times.
He dropped the F-bomb, didn't he?
I don't believe he did drop an F-bomb. If he did, I was so embarrassed that I may not have heard it. Here's the thing, though. He told me to shut the camera off I complied because, I don't know the rules. This is my first convention. He said, how new do you are this? I told him very new. This is my first one. And he goes ahead and tells me to shut the camera off. And I press the button on my phone that puts my phone to sleep and automatically ends alive. ... So I think the plot thickens. My friends and family hear him berating me. So I come back to my phone and I see comments like, what a dickhead, what an asshole. My brother Woody said, never mind, don't tell him I said hi. I'm not here to bury the guy, right? I respect his right to privacy. Okay, so if he, if he ever hears this,
said it though. It was the way he said it.
Yeah, it was the way that he, he was saying things like, I'm a Marine first and an actor second, which had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the conversation. Listen, my boss is a Marine, and my boss heard that and said, man, I wish I was there, because I would have said, how long did you serve in the Corps? Because you don't need to flash it as a badge of honor to get your point across, right? So here's what I think made it worse. I left, cooled my jets, came back because I was embarrassed. And Tony walks up to me and says, you're all set, man. Like, he didn't know that you were with me. He thought you were just one of the convention goers. And I thought to myself, that's actually worse, right? Because if I were a fan and I wanted to pay for an autograph, you just blew it, buddy. Now, I know my $60 or whatever it was means nothing to you, but you never burn your bridges on the way up, because you never know when you're going to need them on the way down. I'm a fan, or at least kind of. I never really liked the movie to begin with. I actually more know him from Ted and Ted 2, right?
I didn't even know he was in it.
He makes cameos in there. They're all big Flash Gordon geeks in that movie and stuff, and it's like a big deal for them. So I think I saw Flash Gordon when I was 5, maybe. But here's the point. If he had just come up to me and said, I don't know if you know this or not, but some of us don't appreciate being on camera like that. You put me on a spot. Can you please turn it off? Problem solved. But instead, he says, first you come up and he accuses me of trying to record his phone call. And then he says, and then you asked me to say hi to your brother. What am I supposed to say? No, you just did. Right? Like, he didn't say hi to my brother. Instead, he lambasted me in front of the whole convention. I'm glad there was only like 10 people there, because everybody was still at work at this point. And I was very red-faced. And
it took you a while to come back and cool off, because I was wondering where you went, and then you said you had to cool off. So
yeah. And in the meantime, why don't you tell them about Tony Atlas putting a big wiener in his mouth?
Tony Atlas puts big wieners in his mouth. And I'm going to explain that. So I bought Tony Atlas a hot dog. There was like hardly any like signage or anything like that for like food, like where exactly do we eat around here? So there was no like big sign that said food this way. So I had to ask a bunch of people in order to finally find the food. There was a restaurant there, but the restaurant there was very expensive. They wanted like $15 for a burger.
The salad was $9, but if you wanted to add chicken, it was $17.
Yeah. So I ended up going and finding this. I saw somebody with some French fries and some like a burger and some hot dogs like wrapped up in foil. I'm like, where did you get that? So they said over there. So I went around the corner with, again, no signage. And then there was a whole like buffet, but it was all, they open it up and they serve it to you. But it was, the hamburger or cheeseburgers in foil, hot dogs in foil,
it's
fries,
and
pizza. Yeah, well, I don't know what that is, but there was a lot of food there. And it was a lot cheaper. But I went and bought this cheeseburger. It was mostly all bread and this one little thin patty in the middle, one slice of crappy cheese on it. But anyway, got that for myself, and then I ended up getting a hot dog for Mr. Tony Atlas. He gave me money and I gave it back to him, and I told him it's on me. And so
you paid for Tony's wiener.
I paid for Tony's wiener, not like Marty Jannetty with the girls, but
just Marty being Marty.
Marty being Marty. Wait till you hear our Marty Jannetty episode. We finally got Marty to mostly finish the show, so you wait for that another time.
Marty has never had problems finishing. Just ask the ladies that came over.
He'd get a kick out of that. So he was in rare form. Anyway, back to Tony. I gave him a hot dog. The hot dog was ginormous, like this bit nice and thick and big and long. What kind of show is this?
You're the one that put the wiener in Tony's hand, and he in turn put it in his mouth. You also, I believe, went over and offered to get a menu for Maria, didn't you? Maria Kanellis?
Yeah, I actually offered Maria a menu. I went over and brought it to her because it's kind of hard to get up and walk around and leave all your pictures and everything on the table with nobody to really get you any food or anything. So,
yeah, that's why we were the guard dogs. And
yeah, so Tony does art. Tony does artwork. He brings his artwork to his show. He's a very good artist. Good like Bret Hart, good like Jerry Lawler. I mean, they're very good artists. I didn't know this about Tony until we got talking to him and he brought his artwork out. He's amazing. If you Google Tony Atlas artwork, you'll see it for yourself.
It's very good. In fact, he handed Ted DiBiase a picture he drew of him and President Trump.
Yep, President Trump, yep.
So this is the second WWE Hall of Famer that we've actually procured for the show. I was very excited. Other than the one hiccup with Flash Gordon, who did later on in the night come over and he shook my hand. He said, "My friend, we're good." And I wasn't going to say anything on the podcast, but it's part of the experience.
And I have a picture of Tony's Hall of Fame ring. I took a picture of it and I'm going to place it on our Twitter at DAH_smash. If anybody follows us on Twitter.
We're on Facebook at Double Axe Handle Smash. You can go to the website, dahsmash.com. We're on all your favorite providers. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. We are on Google Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. We're on Deezer if you're listening abroad. Anywhere, mostly, that you can get your favorite podcast, you can find us. Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast.
We really need support and downloads, and that would really help us out.
Yeah. Even if you're just listening and you haven't downloaded, just download and then delete. That helps us. It helps you. It helps us procure better and fresher guests. Some of you had said get some newer talent. We'd love to, but newer talent especially, they're all tech and media savvy, and they're going, well, what are your numbers, right? So let's help get our numbers up. But I think we've gone off the beaten path a little too much. Why don't we talk about our guest, Johnny O?
Well, our guest, everybody can call him Marvelous. And
like I've said before, Marvelous.
He's a wild man. And he's also a very bad man. He's Marc Mero, Johnny B. Bad, however you want to remember him.
Wild
and
man,
he's our guest.
Marvelous. Golden Gloves champion.
Great story. He's a great Dusty Rhodes impersonation.
Yeah. So I think you guys are going to have fun listening to this episode. I know we had fun recording it. And why don't you stick around after the show and we'll tell you who's coming next. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast. We like to welcome our very special guest at this time, the marvelous one, Johnny B. Bad himself, Mr. Marc Mero. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, guys. Good to be on your show. Good to see you guys looking good, man.
Thank you. That's the first time somebody's told me I've looked good in like years. I appreciate it.
He had hair about 2 weeks ago.
I did. Long hair. Yeah.
And I'm going on my honeymoon this Saturday to Hawaii. So I'm rocking the Hawaiian shirt.
Not with me, I promise.
Not with him, no.
Enjoy every moment, guys.
Appreciate it. So before you were a professional wrestler, you did some boxing. You want to just talk about that, a short stint as a bodybuilder?
Well, even before that, my first love was hockey. I played hockey. I played all the way up to my juniors and then played football for my high school football team and did real well at both of those sports. And took a quick shot at some bodybuilding and placed in the Mr. New York State contest. Then eventually made my way into boxing was before bodybuilding, and did real well boxing. Won the New York State Golden Gloves a few years and gold medal in the Empire State Games. And then eventually made my way to the USA boxing team in Colorado Springs. And, it's just been an incredible journey, guys.
Wow, that's great. So tell us about how you got into professional wrestling. I read that you were trained by the Malenkos.
I was, man. It was really strange. I was living in Venice, Florida, and I was working as a pool builder. I would, they come with the backhoe and dig the pools. I'd be in there shaping it and go into measurements and everything. And so being a pool builder, on the weekends, we would party pretty heavy every weekend because we had the weekends off. And I had some friends over my apartment, and one of my buddies was flipping through the TV channels, and he landed on professional wrestling. Now, I've always been a good athlete, but I was around 30 years old at this point in my life, years of drug addiction, abuse. And I just remember looking at the television going, hey, guys, I can do that. My buddies busted out laughing. They go, Mark, look at the size of those guys. I think the Road Warriors were on or someone, And they go, those guys will pick you over their head and throw you right out of that ring. I said, I'm telling you, I can do that. And my other buddy goes, Mark, you're 30 years old. What are you going to do? Start a pro career now? And guys, I said 2 words that I use in all my presentations to inspire young people. I just said, I believe, because you have no idea the power you give yourself when you believe in you. So it's always about the action you take towards a goal or a dream. Now, obviously, I didn't know put anything about professional wrestling. And so it was about the action I took next. But what happened was I was working at a gym called The Waiting Room. I was working out at a gym called The Waiting Room in Venice, Florida. And there was other guys that were professional wrestlers that were I guess you'd want to call them the enhancement guys, or some people would refer to them as jobbers or whatever you want to say, but they were really good guys. We worked out at the gym and I got to know them a little bit. And I said, well, how do you get into wrestling? They go, well, there's a school in Tampa that's run by Boris Malenko, and you could drive down. And I think it's only like, he charges like $20, every time you go. So I thought, man, that's a good idea. So I started going there on weekends and sometimes after work, and would drive about an hour drive to Tampa and work out. And that's where, Boris Malenko started teaching me how to wrestle. And the guys would sometimes drive like 9.5 hours from Venice to Atlanta to be an extra on Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night 6:05 show for WCW. So I said, hey, is there a chance I can go with you guys? And I really, it wasn't like I graduated from wrestling school or anything. I was still green as grass. And when I got there, I had a pretty good physique, and they chose me to be beat up by Doom with another guy. And so that's where the beginning of my career started. But I remember after my wrestling match, I screwed up the finish. I got out of the ring too fast, and they were upset with me because you just got to lay like you're dead, But I thought because of TV time or cameras and everything, I thought I had to get out of the ring, But anyways, long story short, I thought that Dusty was really pissed at me. Dusty Rhodes was the booker then. And they said to me, Dusty needs to see you right away after my match. So thinking, oh gosh, here we go. So as soon as I seen him, I started apologizing. I go, Dusty, I'm really sorry for it. He goes, oh, no. He goes, kid, anybody ever tell you look like Little Richard? And I thought he was talking about a wrestler. And I never heard of a wrestler named Little Richard. So I said, I never heard of a wrestler named Little Richard. He goes, no, not a wrestler, the singer, Little Richard. And then I thought, I never heard anyone think I look like Little Richard, but he saw the character with the makeup and the long curly hair and all that, and he goes, I think I got a gimmick for you. And that's how it all started, guys. And that's how Johnny B. Bad came into life. And I just embraced the character, But, guys, and I've said this on many podcasts, I think some of my greatest memories in professional wrestling wasn't necessarily the matches or traveling or seeing the world. It was watching Dusty Rhodes become Johnny B. Bad, teaching me how to say, I'm so pretty, I should be born a little girl, or I'm a bad man. And, he would do it in a certain way. And we used to get laughing so hard. I remember one time we got laughing, we just hug each other, man. It was like just a memory I'll always have of him teaching me, because he was a real flamboyant guy,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so him teaching me this this kid from New York, a boxer from New York, to be this flamboyant Macon, Georgia personality, so it was just some great memories, and God rest his soul and rest in peace the dream. He you often think where my life would have been if it wasn't for that guy,
I actually, funny, I when I wrote these questions down, I have one of the things I said is like, how did Dusty pitch it to you? And I said, please include your best Dusty impersonation. And I said that, and you did it anyway. And I'm so happy about this. I actually thought with the makeup and everything, I thought you were actually African-American, like way back. When you're,
I got to
when you went to WWE, I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
What's so funny about that is I had such a big African-American fan base too, because many people thought I was black, Yeah. And to this day, I speak at schools all over the country now, and I'll go to a school and a teacher might say to me, what character were you when you wrestled? I go, well, I started off as a character named Johnny B. Bad. They go, Johnny B. Bad, that was a black guy. And I said, no, that was me. Obviously, very tan back then. I was in sunbeds all the time, and the character was based on an African American, Little Richard. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and luckily, he was not a real dark-skinned black guy, so I didn't have to get too dark. And I'd go into a town, work out, find a tanning bed, and make sure I kept up my gimmick.
So, while you were learning from the Malenkos, were there any other people in that class that would go on to be superstars? Anybody?
Absolutely. Sean Waltman. Man, I'll never forget. Sean Waltman was this skinny little kid, man. And but he was a really good wrestler. Like, he was at Malenkos for quite a while when I got there, so he could do anything. This little kid, this little string bean could fly up those ropes, man. And who'd ever think that he'd become the amazing superstar that he became? But he was just, he could wrestle with anybody and have fun. And of course, Dean and Joe were pretty much on the road all the time back then. So I didn't see too much of them, but I remember when they did come, we would sit there on the side of the ring and watch these guys perform and just say, man, someday I want to be able to do what he does, and just, he was just effortless. Their movements, the way they did things, man, were just so impressive, and so just the ease of which they could do things was just amazing. The storytelling they could do in their matches, and the way they could sell, and the way they could punch without hurting a guy, and kick and do all the things that were just that you wanted to learn how to be like them.
We had Barry Horowitz on our podcast about a couple months ago. Did you know him then? Because he came from the Malenko school. Okay.
I did not know him from the Malenko school. Sean was the guy I really remembered only because he was just do some crazy stuff. He was so athletic, even, remember the kid weighed like 140 pounds back then, he
shot off those ropes, man. He was lightning kid. He was so,
and who would ever think that down the road that one of my first matches with WWE was against him on a pay-per-view. It was in your house pay-per-view. And I think he was one of the first guys that I worked with.
When you became the Johnny B. Bad character, we touched briefly on the whole makeup thing. How did you feel about having all that makeup on you? Any embarrassing stories about that?
Yeah, when you're making $13 grand a year digging swimming pools in 1990, they offer you six figures. You say, put it on.
I'm into heavy metal. I was putting it on anyway. So,
what's kind of funny about it was Terry Reynolds, Marlena, she was the makeup artist for CNN back then. So she had me in this makeup chair, and now I couldn't see what she was doing because she was facing me and the mirror was behind me. It's almost like you're getting a haircut and they spin you around, and she's doing all this makeup and my hair and everything. And I'll never forget, man, when she turned me around that chair, I'm like, damn, I do look like Little Richard. Who'd ever see this? You know what I mean?
Now, was that mustache drawn on, or did you grow one?
No, I had to grow one, but obviously I shaved it so it was very thin.
It almost looked like makeup. It looked so good.
Yes, they put mascara on it to really highlight it, so It was very pronounced. But yeah, it was funny, guys. What's kind of funny about it, my dad was a detective in New York, and all his friends, and growing up, we always had, a lot of my friends were police officers and people that worked for the city of Buffalo, and they would all come to my boxing matches. So they saw this. My dad's name is Hap Merrow. So they see Hap's son, knocking guys out, and he's a tough kid, won the Golden Gloves. And so I had this big following. My dad's friends would love to come watch me box, So my dad tells them that I made it in professional wrestling and he's going to buy the pay-per-view, or was a Clash of Champions, or one of the big shows that he was going to have everybody over to watch it. Okay. And so all his buddies are in the room and they're all waiting for me to come out. And all of a sudden that tutti fruity music starts playing. And I come walking out with a feather boa on, full makeup, a garter belt on. And I walk up to the microphone and I say, "I'm so pretty. I should have been born a little girl." And my dad said the room was silent. So my dad just goes, "Hey, Vay, at least he's making good money."
I just remember that WCW Super Brawl. I'm a bad man every time you select Johnny B. Bad
on the video game.
Yeah,
right?
the video game. I'm a bad man.
Yeah.
It
was a lot of fun. I honestly, I being in WWE, WCW, TNA, XWF. My best memory in wrestling, or I guess the character I enjoyed the most was being Johnny B. Bad, only because it was such a character so opposite of me. It's like you couldn't do no wrong. If you say something stupid, it's just a character that people would laugh at or would get behind only because of how outrageous it was. I'm shooting this bad blaster, we're shooting, and the funny thing is that on television, I would actually shoot out real money. So when people would hold up the money, it was like, it was real money, 5s and 10s. So when people would see that I at house shows, they'd think, "Oh my God." So when I went to that side of the ring, they'd go crazy because they want me to shoot the bad blaster. But we had printed money that said, "In Johnny we trust, I'm a bad man." So it was a real funny thing that when people would get the fake money instead of the real money.
I was actually going to ask you about the bad blaster because I remember your feud with Max Payne. I remember he bad blasted you in the face or something like that.
Right in the eye, the son of a gun. Yeah.
For those who don't know who Max Payne is, he was also Man Mountain Rock. Very briefly.
Very briefly,
yeah.
I used to love him as Max Payne. I loved him as Max Payne.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. I enjoyed. We didn't have a real long feud, but working together with me, he's a nice guy. He would one of those guys that would just want to make a good match, just tried his best.
So you got to work with Rick Rude for the WCW International World Heavyweight title in the early 1994 before Rude retired to injury. How was it working with a man of Rude's caliber? How was he in the ring? What were your memories of that?
Great memories with Rick Rude. He was so giving in the ring. Like he let me, I took most of the match. Beat the heck out of him. If you see the match, he really took a lot and he'd bump around and he was a great bumper. That guy could take some bumps, Nothing but good memories with Rick Rude, man. Just obviously he retained his belt, so he gave me most of the match and did a great job. And I was so green, it's like I was just learning. And they because I was so green, they really tried to put me with some real seasoned workers that could help me along the way, and especially at house shows, putting with guys that were been around for a long time. That guys like Arn Anderson was one of the most underrated and best workers out there. Working with Raven back then, he was Scotty Flamingo, was great to work with. Steve Regal, John Paul Levesque, when he was with Terrorizing, I think his first name was, with WCW. We worked together and he was really well seasoned. And there was just so many of them along the ways. Ricky Morton, guys they put me on the road with that I work with every night to teach me and help me learn and become a better wrestler. Was a real.
Think you learned the most from, like Dusty?
Dusty didn't really teach me more about the wrestling part of it. It was more about the gimmick, the character part of it. My think about it. My finish was a knockout punch. It wasn't like you got to really work on that. So I'll kick your booty with my tutti frutti.
I remember the wind up.
there's just like the guys I just mentioned were guys I really learned from. But Diamond Dallas Page and I would actually go down to the power plant and work out a lot on our own to get better, especially when they put us together and we were doing all these pay-per-views against each other. I fought them for the girl, the money, the belt, and it was always for something, So we would put together these matches. We go down the power plant and work on it. And Jody Hamilton, God rest his soul, was one of the guys that was always there at the power plant that helped us out. And Dwayne Bruce, Sarge, he wrestled as Sarge, was a big help down there, man, because that guy.
And he was a little guy.
Yeah, but he'd bump all day long for you. He'd throw him off. You do a backdrop or practice something. He'd be there for you. And I can't thank him enough for all that he helped us with down there. But there's I know I'm forgetting guys that have helped me along the journey. That when I first got to WCW, because man, remember something. Here's this green guy. One of my first pay-per-views, I'm wrestling Sting. I mean, guy I watched on television that I'm thinking I was so nervous. I remember being so nervous walking out there thinking, I'm wrestling Sting. I don't know how to wrestle, Please get this thing over with
fast. Did it help you out, though? Did the Stinger at least help you out?
Oh, yeah. He another guy that, tell me what you want to do. You want to do this or that and get your stuff in, man. And, because, the match was like, I can't remember. It was like it was a match that Cactus Jack comes out of a box and attacks Sting because they were building a feud with them guys. And I was just kind of a pawn in it to set up a match. So there wasn't really a ton of stuff we had to do.
So you're coming into the business and growing at a time when it's customary to party and stuff. Were you big into the partying scene? Were you a partier at that time?
Well, when I first got into WCW, you want to keep your nose clean, so to speak, you want to perform and you want to do well, but once you got settled in, and you started going on the road with the guys and, and you're hanging out and you go to bars after and bring in women and girls and just the crazy lifestyle of partying. The owners of bars would stay open all night for you if you wanted sometimes, So it was a crazy lifestyle. And then it led to, excess, not just drinking, but then partying and coke and just I just destroying your body. And I actually started missing events. That's how bad it got. And guys, and I'll tell you, one of the stupidest things and saddest things I ever did was hurt people that really cared about me. And I'll give you an example. I missed a couple events and I remember kept thinking, because I wanted to sleep that day. And I said, I could take a later flight, and then it got to the point there was only one more flight leaving Atlanta that would get me to Baltimore, whatever that event was. I think it was Baltimore. And it was like a 4:00 flight. It would get me in at 6 and I could make it to the match by, 7 or whatever it was. I just get there in time. I thought, let me just sleep all day. And so I got ready to go to the airport and I got a notice on that flight was canceled. There was no more flights. So I missed all the flights. I couldn't get to Baltimore, So I missed that event. And now I get a call and WCW is pissed at me. Dusty Rhodes is the booker. And now I got to drive to the CNN Center the next day and meet with Dusty Rhodes. And guys, more so than the disappointment of what I did to myself was disappointing him. I will never forget when I walked in his office, he looked at me, he says, "Kid, I made you and I can break you. You miss one more event and you're done." And I remember the sadness I had of seeing how hurt he was, not about, what I did to myself and the financial ruin I put myself in by doing stupid things like that, but seeing how bad he was hurt because he's the guy that made me. He's the guy that put the stamp of approval. This is the guy that I made Johnny be bad. I came up with this character. He's only here because of me. And I don't know. I always remember how sad he was, and I thought, I never want to hurt that guy again. Now, it wasn't that I stopped partying. I just didn't party on days I had to, get ready for. Now, after a wrestling match, no problem. But when I knew I had to get somewhere, I don't remember missing an event after that.
You beat Lord Steven Regal for your first championship, world television title. It was one of my favorite championships because I always felt just like the Intercontinental. It was like kind of like the worker title, it was like for really good workers. Steven Regal was one of my favorite wrestlers at the time as well. How did you feel about working with Steven Regal, and what did the TV title mean to you?
Well, first of all, I want to reiterate what I was saying earlier about guys that helped me along the way. And Steve Regal was like, we weren't really good friends, but he helped me so much. I mean, he was so talented, that guy. I mean, the way he could take something, like he knew what I was capable of doing as far as some of my high flying stuff, like a flying head scissor or sunset flip off top rope. He's always in the right place, the right time. His timing was impeccable. He was just a gifted wrestler and just was a student of the game, So, I mean, I was looking back, I didn't realize it then how blessed I was to work with a guy like that, especially winning my first title was winning the world television title from Lord Steven Regal. But Steve was just a tremendous athlete, wrestler, character, you name it. And he just respected the sport so much. I mean, to this day, when you see a guy wipe his boots before he gets in the ring, it's mostly because Steve Regal did it and people would follow what he did. And especially as many of the new wrestlers that do it got it from Steve Regal.
So I work at Subway, and before I go in the door in the morning, I wipe my feet like Steven Regal. I don't know why I do it, but I always thought that was so cool. So I do it just going into Subway. I mean, I went to wrestling school to be a wrestler, and I couldn't make it. I ended up getting hurt. So I do little things, independent shows and like ring announcing, refereeing and stuff, but I still want to be in the business so bad. And so I guess that's, I just do things like that,
But, it's funny because, Steve Regal has trained so many wrestlers or helped so many people, at NXT and so on. And when you see a new guy do that, I always go, I know exactly where he got that from. It is really a form of respect more than anything, not that you clean off your boots before you get in, but it's really a form of respect. I can't thank Steve Regal enough for helping me with my career and obviously making me shine with wrestling me for that, because we wrestled, probably over 100 times, with all the different house shows and traveling all around the world together, always defending the television title was, many times was against Steve Regal.
I really wish WWE came up with a television title. The title draws, the time limit draws and everything, that was always a great way the guy could keep his title, the other guy doesn't have to lose, So it was always a good thing. And then the expressions of Steve Regal were his facial expressions. I mean, that was the best in the business right there.
It really was good stuff. So according to the ever reliable Wikipedia, there was an issue with the Honky Tonk Man and yourself. Is that true?
The issue wasn't with me. I mean, he didn't want to, he didn't want to drop the strap. I believe that was the issue. It was one of the, I think that was it, wasn't it? Was it that he didn't want to?
I don't think he was television champion. I don't think they made him champion.
Well, no, you know what? I wrestled him at Halloween Havoc, and I think I was a champion. And
he didn't want to lose or something like that.
Yeah, he didn't want to put you over.
He didn't want to get pinned maybe or something like that. I think it was. And then, he ended up hitting me over the head with a guitar. So it was all cool. But I never had an issue with him. I mean, when guys had issues with the way a finish was or something, it was often the debate was not so much between the wrestlers, but between one of the wrestlers and the promoter or, the booker. Right. So whoever he was discussing that with, he didn't want to do I don't think he wanted to do I think I was going to be able to knockout punch or something. I believe that was it. And if I'm stating correctly, but I never really had a problem with him. And, to me, he was fine. He was a good guy.
The other day I went to the store and I was trying to find the best seasoning for my steak. I love steak. Okay. And I cook that thing all year round on the grill. I mean, I cook more than just steak. I cook chicken and I cook fish and I, cook pork chops and all that other stuff. But I'm always trying to find rubs, spice blends to put on the meat.
Have you tried rubhouse.com?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Yeah, man. Their number 21 has won national state competitions with no MSG, no salt, all natural ingredients. I had the owner of rubhouse.com in a phone conversation the other day, and you should hear the passion in his voice when he talks about his love for spices. This guy goes out of his way to make sure that you're getting all natural and all organic product. He said, imagining opening up a packet of seasoning that has no salt, no MSG, no sugar, just all natural goodness. Rubhouse.com. Get your rubs from there. Tell them Double Axe Handle Smash podcast sent you. Rubhouse.com. It's a proud sponsor of Double Axe Handle Smash podcast.
Most recently, we basically lost a great human being and wrestler, Bobby Eaton. What are your memories of beautiful Bobby?
He is another one that they put me on the road with that I would wrestle over and over again. And it's, everyone's said it, one of the best. I mean, really, one of the best in the world was Bobby Eaton because he could do anything. That guy, I mean, he could take any finish. He could make anybody shine. He never complained. He was just a good person. And he was funny. He was fun to be around. He was a happy person. And, there's certain guys that when they come to the dressing room, some people, saying, do people like to see you come in or they like to see you go, and Bobby Eaton, he was one of those guys that he just lit up a room, man. He was a good guy.
So one of the last people you get to work with in World Championship Wrestling was, of course, Diamond Dallas Page. So would you say that was your favorite feud?
Well, it was because we're so close. We're such good friends that we just really, they usually put us on opening match, so we always we're going to steal the show, man. That was our
really clicked
not that we did, or was, maybe sometimes we had great matches, but our attitude was we're going to steal the show, man. We're going to have the best match. That was our attitude, so we go down to the power plant and work on our matches, our moves. And, he was just it would take them to this day. We're such good, close friends that we always like to help each other. And who would ever think that after wrestling, we both go different directions, but we're still helping other people. We helped each other get to a certain level, and now we're helping other people in different areas of our life,
So you guys are still friends, like really close, Shane?
Oh yeah, he lives 20 minutes from me, man. I go down to his place.
I only ask because most of the other guests we've had have said something to the effect of, you don't really have friends in professional wrestling. Barry Horowitz said, if you want a friend in the business, get a dog. So it kind of breaks that stigma,
It's pretty much true in a sense that not real close friendships, but Dallas and I, we've been friends since 1990 and have maintained a great friendship. And, he's one guy I've never had a beef with. I mean, we've come nose to nose arguing about a match or something, or silly things, but I don't know. He's one guy that would always have my back and I would always have his. And I don't know. I just couldn't be more proud of him. I always say, don't bet against DDP. I've always said that and watched him succeed. Because remember, after I left WCW, he became world champion. I mean, he just took off like a rocket, and because in fact, the last match I had was against Lex Luger, where Lex won the strap, the WCW television title from me. And it's because Diamond Dallas Page hit me with a diamond cutter and rolled me back in the ring, and Lex pinned me. And by the way, another great guy that I loved working with was Lex Luger. Another guy that he just was, I don't know, just so easy to work with for me. There's guys that complain about different guys, but I was blessed to have guys that really worked well with me. And I wanted to shine Lex, and I had no problem. We dropped the strap to each other a couple times. I was a 3-time champion. He was maybe 5 or 6-time champion,
When you left WCW, first of all, why did you leave WCW? And second of all, when you left, was the WWE offer already on the table?
Yes. I actually flew up and had a dinner with Vince McMahon. And I was the first one to get a guaranteed contract at WWE. Right. And what happened was 3 years prior to that, when my contract was up with WCW, Vince flew me in and I had a dinner at his house and met with Vince. And he said, what's it going to take to get you here? And I said, I want a guaranteed contract. He goes, I can offer you an opportunity, but I don't do guaranteed contracts. And we left on good terms. We shook hands, and he said, someday we're going to do business together. Now, fast forward 3 years later, my contract is up again. And I meet with Vince, and he said, what's going to take? I go, Vince, I'm going to say the same thing. I got to have a guaranteed contract to come here. He goes, I'll give you one. And that was it. That was the beginning of it. And there's a couple other things I want too. I got a signing bonus, and I got to have my wife at the time, Rena, who became Sable. I wanted her to fly everywhere I flew. Vince kind of like, what? I go, that's what's going to take. He goes, all right, we'll fly your wife where you want to go. I've never heard that one before, but we'll do it.
Before he saw her, right?
Yeah, before he saw her. And I said, since you're going to fly her everywhere, why don't we have her as my valet? And that way, you can use her as a character. He goes, no, let's just worry about you. I said, okay. But, that was my idea, And when we flew to New York eventually to sign the contract, when Vince saw her, he said, I got to put her on TV. That's how it started. And we came up with the name Sable, and that's how Sable was born.
So when you did sign that big money deal, I guess from what I read in books, Wikipedia and other places, ruffled a lot of guys' feathers.
At the time, I didn't really understand it until later on, but I could certainly understand it now. But, looking back, those guys should be the guys that are thanking me that I broke the glass ceiling, because eventually everybody got a guaranteed contract, So there were some things that I didn't realize that pissed off so many guys, but it hurt me working with guys and stuff, because not long after I signed my big contract, now here I am getting, big signing bonus, guaranteed money. I blow out my knee and I need total reconstruction of my knee, ACL, medial collateral, meniscus, and I'm out for 8 months. I'm at home collecting that big paycheck, the same thing I would make if I was wrestling every night. And there's guys that are getting paid on how well the house draws,
right?
On what level card they're at. So there was a lot of people pissed at me, which really hurt me in a sense that guys didn't really give it their all when they worked with me or weren't real friendly with me. And it was tough. And I think that's why I enjoyed WCW so much more, was everybody there was on a guaranteed contract, and your buddies, you drove around, you hung out with your guys. But now I'm with my wife all the time. So I wasn't out, after the matches partying with the guys or hanging out or creating long-term friendships. So that really hurt me. And I look back and I was guilty of that,
Now, you were coming up when Stone Cold Steve Austin was coming up. Was Steve one of those guys that took issue with you? Did you have any problems with Stone Cold Steve Austin?
The thing that happened with Steve and I was supposed to go into a program with Steve as Marvelous Mark Mero versus Steve Austin. And what happened was I allowed Sable to powerbomb me. And Steve killed the whole run that I was going to have with him, which really, he was a top guy. So to get in the ring with the top guy was a big, feather in your cap if you could wrestle with Steve Austin and have a program going along with him. So they were going to build a little program. But when I allowed Sable to Sable bomb me, Steve killed it. And I could certainly understand it now. I mean, how would it look if I'm beating up Steve in a match and they go, well, Sable beat him up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So totally understand it. But at the time, guys, you got to remember something. I'm on a guaranteed contract. Whether I win or lose, I get paid the same. Now I got a chance to build up my wife. In other words, her merchandise is selling second to only Steve Austin's at the time, So here I am. I'll do anything to get her over, So remember, they're backing up the Brinks truck to our house at this point now, So let's just build her up. I'm getting paid the same no matter what. And not really thinking about that I'm going to blow these other opportunities. But guys, even looking back on it, I wouldn't have changed anything. When you're in a marriage and in love, you just think of your future together and you're going to build, this together. So, that's the way it went. And, but guys, all the paths I took in my life led to where I am right now in my life. And it couldn't be better or more content than I am now.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask, I know you've had several feuds with Steve Austin in WCW, or several matches, I'm sorry. Yeah. And they were great. I loved your stuff with Steve Austin, and you're only as good as the guy you're beating, and I see where Steve's view was there too. Just, were you guys friends when you got to WWE because you already knew him, like, kind of thing?
Never. Steve and I were never really friends. I mean, now we are. It's funny because I did his podcast, and after the podcast, we talked for 45 minutes on the phone, just shooting the breeze and catching up, and it was great, man. Just becoming a friend, I guess, But I probably wrestled Steve Austin. The three guys I wrestled the most were probably Triple H, Steve Austin, and Diamond Dallas Page. Okay. especially Steve and Hunter, because we were both in WCW and WWE together. So we have many programs together. But Steve Austin, and the thing I want to compliment about Steve Austin, why he was so great, you'd always hoped you were on like when you were traveling on doing house shows, I was always like, oh, man, I hope I'm on before intermission so I could get on a plane and get out of here, or get back to the hotel and watch TV or whatever. But Steve Austin would watch every match. He was always at the curtain peeking through, watching everybody's match. And I'd say, man, that guy watches everybody's match, and not realizing that. So when he worked with somebody, like when he worked with me, he knew all my moves. He knew what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. So when he put together a match in his head, he'd say, this is what I want to do. And the match would be, some of my best match work. Remember King of the Ring with Steve Austin. He put together that match. It was an amazing match. And he highlighted the things I was good at and stayed away from the things I wasn't so good at. But he did that with everybody. And that's why he was so great. So when it was his time to become the man, he could wrestle anybody. And I think if I could ever go back, I would have studied more of the psychology of wrestling. And I'm saying this to any newcomer or new guy that's getting into the business. We always want to try the fancy moves and finishers and everything. But man, when you learn the psychology of the match, the flow of the match, like a Steve Austin, like a Steve Regal, like a Triple H, like a Bret Hart, people that were so gifted at putting together the storyline of the match.
Let's talk about the part of the Attitude Era that nobody seemed to like. That would be the Brawl for All. How was that pitched to you? Whose idea was it? Because I've heard conflicting stories. And was it really a shoot, or was there some work involved?
You know what? I think it was tossed around between Vince Russo and Vince McMahon. Who knows? I don't know where it all came from. I just remember they told me they were going to pay me an extra $5 or $10,000, fight someone for 3 rounds. And I had no fear. I've always been one of those guys but the difference is people look at me as like this boxer from New York. I was 18, 19, 20 years old, right? I was 178 pounds. I'd had 14 surgeries, 5 on my shoulders, 5 on each elbow. I didn't have the speed or the same punching power I had when I was younger, But everybody looked at it like, oh my gosh, Marc Mero's going to go out there. But I got to tell you, the thing I did still have is I'm very elusive. I don't get hit very much at all, So here I am. I fought 2 matches, and no one really hit me in the face, or at least not that hard, anyways. Or no one. So if I ever did get to a Butterbean or Bart Gunn, I don't think they would have been able to hit me solid, because of my boxing background. But I did not have the same speed or punching power I had when I was a kid. But anyways, it was my first match was against Steve Blackman, and basically he just kept taking me down. He's a smart guy. So
yeah, I remember that. As a fan, I remember being kind of mad, going, well, this is weak. Yeah,
it was so boring. And the sad part, it was the first one. It was like everybody wanted to see this, but when he kept just taking me down, it was like, okay, so we're not going to really fight. You're just going to keep tackling me. And it was a boring match. But what happened was he got injured. So I got to get back in and then and fight Bradshaw, and of course now this Bradshaw's just a barroom brawler. So this is going to be a lot more fun, but he's a big guy. And we fought to a draw, which they called it a draw. And then we had to go one more. It's like one of those things where they take off the gloves and you're all done. You're like, oh, all right, that's over. They go one more round. You're like, oh, damn. But he's another guy that at the time we were not very good friends. We did not like each other at all. And today he's like, I'm so proud of the person he is and all the work he does for kids and bringing water to countries like, I think it's Haiti, or all the things he does. Just an amazing guy. I'm just so proud to know him in that aspect of his life. I know he's real happy for me for the things I do at schools and so on. So it's great to see that, to bury that hatchet type, so to speak.
Hey, when you were in the King of the Ring tournament, real quick, and think you came up into one of the moves, or Steve Austin did, and he cut his lip. What did he cut his lip on?
Well, what happened was Steve and I did this move all the time. We do this on the road all the time. And so what it is, he goes to suplex me, flips me, but I do a flip and land over on the back of him. And then I jump up in the air. I kick my feet underneath his armpits. So my feet are right here.
Right.
And then I flip him backwards. Well, what happened was, as my feet came through, he was looking down and it caught him right in the mouth and split his mouth wide open. I mean, that was a really bad cut. We're right apart, and but he credits that cut of him coming up with Austin 316. Yeah. So
and we get to talk about my favorite part, because this happened right here in my hometown. You had your match with Butterbean.
Yes.
We talked about it earlier. You beat him over the head. We weren't recording, so you can tell our fans how bad you felt.
Well, first of all, Butterbean and I, we became friends before the pay-per-view, and we talk on the phone and stuff. And he was because we were both in the boxing business at one time, and he still was. But he's a sweetheart of a guy. He's just a down home boy from Alabama. Just a good guy. Very polite, loves his fans. So, anyways, the gist of the match was we have. After each round, you sit on a stool. Well, there was 2 stools. There was a gimmick stool that when I hit him with it, just splatters and splinters all everywhere, And there was a real stool, which I got to sit on in between rounds. And I think it was, 2 or 3 rounds. So I'm sitting on the stool. And then the next thing is that the finish of the match was I hit him over the head with a stool. So my corner man goes underneath the ring and grabs the stool, but unfortunately he grabbed the wrong stool. And now I got the real stool, which, it's solid oak. And he's bent over, and I remember just hitting him over the head. And I remember I got boxing gloves on, so it's kind of hard to hold, So I hit him over the head with the stool thinking, this thing's going to shatter everywhere. And it doesn't budge. And then I go, oh my gosh. So I hit him again and again. And finally, just the top of the stool comes off, the seat of the stool, like 4 prongs go into it. That's all that. It wouldn't shatter or nothing, but it left a dent in his head. He was like, damn, and I'll never forget that night we went out to dinner, and, he said, hey, Mark, about that stool. He goes, I thought that was going to shatter all over. I go, Bean, they gave me the wrong stool. He goes, I thought something was wrong, man. My head hurts.
So the interesting thing about that dinner is you had 2 young fans come just tell you how awesome that was. One of them was me.
Really?
My friend Daryl. As a matter of fact,
you remember that?
I don't remember. I mean,
not, but that was 1996 or
you could have had 2 better guys to come up to the table, because some guys are not real happy when people come up if they're eating something.
Yeah, so Butterbean's sitting there. My friend Daryl is like, there he is. So we walk up, and he actually sits and tells us, he wants to come work for WWE and blah, blah, blah. And so you come up and you kind of go like one of these to my buddy, said, hey, how you doing? And I remember thinking, wow, he's a really nice guy. He's playing a dick on TV. But he broke kayfabe to say hello to a fan. And I always appreciated
awesome,
that.
Man. Yeah, I tell you, to this day, I love meeting people. It's funny because, if you go out to dinner or something, and especially what's really cool now is, I wrestled 20 years ago, but because I've done thousands of schools now, 15 years at average 230 events a year, I meet so many students or people that said, that recognize me from that, what I'm doing now in my life, and come up to our table and or say hello to me. And I always love meeting people.
So you ended up leaving the WWE. Was that because of injuries, or were you disappointed?
No, unfortunately, guys, I had 3 years left on my guaranteed contract. I signed a new contract, so I had 3 more years left at big money. And unfortunately, at that time, my ex was bringing a sexual harassment lawsuit against them. So I had to leave with her and had to forfeit, 3 years left of my contract. And so the way it all worked out was that she wanted to go to Hollywood and get into movies and so on. And she did. She did pretty good. She got in a few movies and stuff, but it wasn't really what she wanted. And then she wanted to go back to the WWE and, become the Sable character again. And that's what she did. And, it was also the end of our marriage.
Were you disappointed that you never got to win the WWE title or anything like that? Did that ever bother you?
You know what, guys? I mean, obviously, you want to go as far as you can in anything in life, and it would have been nice to do that, but it doesn't define me. I mean, I don't wake up ever going, damn, if I wish I had that belt. No, but it was talks of it when I first came in. They were going to put it on me right away. And I think Vince thought we could do a character similar to Johnny B. Bad. And because of the lawsuits going back and forth, they didn't even want to risk anything. Right. So that's when they came up with the character, Wild Man Marc Mero. And I never connected with the character. As much as I could have fun with Johnny B. Bad, I could not really connect with the Wild Man Marc Mero. And the fans couldn't connect with it. And it didn't do what I think we all thought it could, as far as Vince and everybody that was behind me for it.
Plus, many people already knew you as Johnny B. Bad from World Championship Wrestling. And so it was like a total departure from that character. And that's why I think as a fan, it was hard for us to connect with the Wild Man.
Yeah. And it was hard to shape that character, going from one to another. But like I said, it all worked out. And, all the paths I took led to this amazing podcast I'm doing right now.
I appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. So there's one thing I always wondered. You showed up on, I believe it was either Thunder or Nitro, and attacked Tank Abbott.
Yes.
And then nothing happened.
Nothing, yes. It was so crazy, too, because I was in Orlando at the time, and they were wrestling in Syracuse, New York. So, I mean, the expense that they had me they had me on a private jet, fly from Orlando to Syracuse on a private jet, do the match, and then fly me right back. I mean, it was just crazy. And I was thinking, okay, am I going to sign with WCW? The character, my ex-wife, Rena Sable, they obviously couldn't use Sable, but it was a real catchy thing because, her just being in the audience was legal without saying her name or whatever, like, what are they doing here? Because someone gave us a ticket. So it was just a real sketchy thing, but we never really decided to go forward with it. There was never really no more discussions about it.
It's just odd to me that they would have such a big thing. You hit somebody, you expect, oh, great, they're starting a feud, and you're never seen on TV again. So that's what I was wondering. Thanks for clearing that up.
So you ended up WCW, folded, XWF ended up coming up shortly, and you appeared there. It was never really televised, I don't think. No one ever really got to see some of what was filmed. And then you went to TNA Impact. Do you want to discuss XWF really quick? And then maybe
it was a brainchild. Hulk Hogan was involved, and they asked me and my ex to be part of that. And it was a great idea. They had some money behind it. We did filming at the, I believe it was Universal Studios, and they got some matches. I got to wrestle. One good thing about it, I got to wrestle Kurt Hennig in it, who was phenomenal to work with that guy. I mean, man, I tell you, talk about a night off. There were some guys you work with that it's almost like anybody could wrestle these guys. They're that good. They can make anybody look good. Guys like Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Hennig, Ric Flair, guys I work with that were just like amazing, So that was one blessing. I got to wrestle him out of it. But yeah, it was a short-lived thing. I don't think they had they did decide not to go forward the money with it, that it cost so much. And then I went to TNA for a while, just get a few matches there. And
we had a match with Raven. I remember that.
Yeah, and I think it was DDP that came out and gave him a diamond cutter, and I beat Raven there. But it was another thing where I was always nursing a lot of past injuries and things. And, the Johnny B. Bad character now, I had very short hair there. It's totally different than the Johnny B. Bad from WCW days. So I just never felt as comfortable with the whole character and everything. So it was kind of, I just kind of went my own way and retired after that. I had one more match in 2006 for Legends of Wrestling pay-per-view. And that was my last match. It was March of 2006. And then
who'd you wrestle on there?
It was me and Russ Rollins against Blue Meanie and Smiley. What's his name? Norman Smiley. Yeah, who was a really good work. Both those guys were good workers. They were fun to work with.
So what's your relationship now with WWE? Like, is there any kind of anything?
There is no relationship. No, because, guys, you remember I spoke out against the drugs and the lifestyle of the wrestlers after we, at that time, when, if you guys remember back in around 2000, early 2000s, a lot of guys were, we lost a lot of guys.
Yeah,
we lost
really.
People,
yeah.
The business, and it was just out of control. And I stood up and spoke out against it, and
that was during the Chris Benoit thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, even looking back on that, guys, I always say that every day you got to be proud of who's looking back at you in the mirror. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. And if you really think about what came out of that, number one, the WWE has some of the strictest drug testing. We very seldom see somebody die now, a current wrestler, I'm saying, And the thing that came out of it was that anyone who's ever been in a WWE ring gets free drug and alcohol rehab. So there were some really bright spots that came out of it that may have saved some lives. Who knows? Guys that have taken advantage of the drug rehab that are been out of the business for years, but had some serious issues. So thank goodness that me and some other people stood up and spoke out against it, that maybe it did change or maybe even save some lives. Who knows?
So before we wrap up with our rapid fire smash, which is just a series of short questions, let's talk about your faith and what you do now, your motivational speaking, and what do you do and how do you do it? Basically, I'm asking you to plug yourself.
When did you become Christian?
Yeah, well, obviously I can't talk about my faith at schools, public schools. We can't say God anymore, pretty much, But, I think that the greatest thing is that they see the light of God shine through me in some way. I'm very honest and open on stage about my downfalls and my drug addiction, my past history in life, the mistakes I made. But, guys, yesterday is the tomb and today is the womb. Your destiny is greater than your history. And I really try to empower young people to believe in their dreams, but take action towards goals in their life and encourage them. We're not defined by someone else's opinion in life. And I've learned so much, through my struggles. I found my strength, and I really love helping other people. It's like there's no greater joy in my life. My legacy is not going to be what I did in wrestling. My legacy is going to be the difference I was able to make in someone else's life. That's what I hope.
How many different schools do you visit a year?
Well, right before the pandemic, we averaged 230 events a year for the last 7 years. Now, this is my 15th year. It's just been growing and growing. But guys, we were going all over the world. We even went to Russia and spoke at schools in Russia. And 2 years ago, we were in Guatemala, and we go up to Canada, but we primarily do United States. And, obviously we can't go to schools now because they're not having in-school assemblies right now. Until this, the pandemic settles down a little more. But we are doing virtual events. I have a big virtual event on this coming Thursday, big drug awareness virtual event that we're going to be seen by many, many people. So I'm excited about that. But any of your listeners, go to my website, thinkpoz.org. And POZ is P-O-Z, thinkpoz.org. And you can see some highlights and videos from my presentations there.
We'll post a link as well.
I was going to say, if you just follow the link in the description of the episode, it'll be there. We'd love to help you guys out as much as you help us.
Do you help adults as well as kids? Like, do you?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever done a seminar with adults?
Oh, absolutely. I did. I was the keynote speaker for the FBI convention. Remember, 2,500 FBI agents. I've done many adult presentations. We do community events. And, guys, we all go through stuff in life. Life's not easy, man. But, I wrote a book called How to Be the Happiest Person on the Planet. And as I look back on that book, I really should have entitled it, because I found happiness kind of comes and goes. You can have one day, you can have a bad day or whatever, but I found that being content in life is the most important thing. It's like being content and being in the storm of life. We're all going to go through stuff, but it's not about the circumstance or situation. It's how you respond to it that makes all the difference. And I just found a whole new way to respond to things, and especially through my faith. Things are going to be okay. This too shall pass. Just like this pandemic, this too shall pass. We're going to have bad days, but you know what? There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. After every storm, the sun eventually will shine through, guys.
Maybe someday you can write a revised copy of that book, and then you can.
I actually am going to. I've already been talking to someone about it.
I would definitely buy it.
The book was written. I wrote the book 10 years ago. And so much has happened in those 10 years that have empowered me to be a better version of who I am now than I was even 10 years ago. So I really hope to write down some things that I think can really help a lot of people, because it's really about your attitude, man. I mean, it's every day. I could wake up and think about all the things that are bad in my life, or could listen to news and would just freak out. Or I could just say, you know what, today I'm going to make a difference in somebody's life. And today I actually put up a video today of a friend of mine that passed away. And he's the guy that did all my tattoos. We spent hours and hours together, and he was one of the most inspirational guys. Whenever I went to his tattoo studio, he always had inspirational messages on his television playing, like maybe Tony Robbins or Ed Milet or a Christian presenter or something. But he always had positive things. And I watched him battle this cancer for quite a while, and I remember knowing that even though he left us, family, everybody, that I'm going to see him again. And someday there's going to be a reunion in heaven and a celebration that will never end. So check out that video. I put it up today.
Okay, I will. We definitely will. Now it's time for what we call the rapid fire smash. You can answer these questions you can take as long as you want for these. So number 1, what's your favorite food?
Well, I can't eat it that much, but I love pizza.
So, Mark, before you tell us what your favorite pizza is, let me tell you about our favorite pizza down at Gio's in Hamden, Mass. What awesome, awesome food they have down there. I have gone down there and eaten the Meat Lovers pizza. You can order it by the slice. I had some wings. I got the mild ones because I was not in the mood for spicy, but trust and believe, I can handle some spice. Johnny, have you ever had their spicy wings?
I love their spicy wings. The wings that they have, the flavors they have, the meatiness of the wings. I always end up getting them extra crispy because I like the crispness of the skin on the wings. That makes me hungry just talking about it.
I'm getting hungry too.
But I have to tell you, now for our listeners only, if our listeners go to Gio's Pizzeria in Hamden, Massachusetts, they will get half off a slice of pizza by giving them the word smash. You tell them at the counter the word smash, and you'll get half off a slice of pizza.
That's 50%. That's generous, man. That's at 9 Allen Street in Hamden, Massachusetts. Give them a call, see what's going on over there, see if it's a busy time. You go get your slice of pizza, 413-566-8015. Tell them we sent you, get yourself 50% off. Also, if you're in the mood for delivery, they will deliver to the surrounding areas. So go ahead, give Gio's a call, 413-566-8015. Go visit them at 9 Allen Street, Hamden, Massachusetts. So, Mark, as we were saying, what is your favorite pizza?
Oh, man, throw everything on it. If I'm going to cheat, man, let me go all out, guys.
Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
You know what? It's not bad, but if I'm saying everything, I probably wouldn't put pineapple on there.
Do you watch any of the current product today?
I don't. It's nothing that because I dislike it or anything. It's just that I don't always have the time. I don't watch a lot of television, and usually when I do, it's usually one of those Netflix series that get your attention. You watch 15 episodes in a row or something.
Yeah. Do you ever think you'll be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame, either as Johnny B. Bad, Marvelous Marc Mero, or Wild Man Marc Mero?
When hell freezes over, I believe I will.
Come on, you don't have any contact at all with them? Like not Triple H because he was your buddy?
I mean, I know Triple H isn't a big fan of mine. And and you know what? He was one of the guys that really helped me go to another level too. So, but you know what? How cool would it be if the WWE worked with me on a school program that came from the WWE? You know what I mean? They have the Make a Star program, but it's not the same. I mean, you got to go into schools and really, deal with kids that are dealing with issues such as bullying and depression, isolation, loneliness, self-harming, suicidal thoughts. They're a whole nother aspect of the mental health that kids are going through today. And I would be the perfect guy for WWE to utilize to do that. So instead of working with them, I do it on my own.
With your working out and everything, and I mean, I saw you the other day. I think you're doing one of your flips at your birthday. You did your moonsault or your marrow salt. You look great. You did it. It was awesome. You still look pretty jacked, man. So is that why you don't eat pizza, or because you're hard?
I am really honest. I'm, you know, it's not, I hate to say diet because it's a lifestyle for me, you know. I feel so good, you know. I can get back in the ring tomorrow. I'm 61 years old, you know. I can get back in the ring tomorrow. I can still do you know, I just haven't grown up yet. And guys, it comes back to attitude, man. I've got a credible attitude. I really take care of myself. I train a couple times. I usually go to the gym about 3 times a week, and then I do my DDPY yoga with Dallas. Go over his house, and we go and put our leg over our head, and then he puts me in a pretzel, and and sends me home.
So, what's your favorite meal now? Then, so like, what do you eat?
Well, I mean, I eat a combination, but I mean, I try to really stay with a lot of more fish and chicken, and grain-free, gluten-free. I stay away from a lot of pastas and breads and things that cause inflammation, especially after 14 surgeries. I feel like a kid again. I don't have no joint pain anymore. I take a daily regimen of glucosamine and chondroitin, so I think that helps too. But I'm just going to keep it going as long as I can. I'm really looking to probably get onto either my YouTube channel or something and start talking more about my diet and helping some people along the way with that too, because it really makes, guys, I can't even express enough how much of a difference my eating has made. I'll give you an example, and I've said this before. I've even posted about this. If you had a brand new Ferrari and it needed gas, I don't care if gas was $10 a gallon, you'd put the best gas in that Ferrari. You would not put regular gas in a Ferrari, you know? Well, but guys, your body, it's your Ferrari for life. And we often put crap in our body. You know, we go to a fast food and put stuff that's a processed food and it's got chemicals in it. And we have no idea what the long-term effects are. And look at what's happening to so many people today. I mean, look how many people, everybody knows someone that's dying of cancer or has had cancer or has recovered from cancer. I mean, these all stem from the processed food that we eat. There's so much garbage in food. So if you eat a clean diet, it can really change your outlook. And I've actually kind of turned back the hands of time in the sense that being 61, I could do things that I wasn't being able to do when I first retired from wrestling. I haven't done a marrow salt or a wild thing since 20 years ago when I was in WWE. And here I am doing it at 61, you know?
Well, we want to thank Marc Mero for his gracious time. Really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Go to thinkpoz.org. Check out what Marc is all about. Thank you so much, Mr. Marvelous Marc Mero. You're always going to be marvelous to me.
He's always going to be Johnny B. Bad to me.
You guys were awesome. Thanks for having me on your show. It was a lot of fun.
Johnny O, why don't you tell him who's next on the Double Axe Handle? A smash.
Well, that actually is a good question. I have no idea who is next.
I'll tell you who's next, bro.
I was going to ask you.
I'll tell you who's next, bro. I'll tell you who's next. A guy who doesn't like the Yankees but lives in New York. A guy who doesn't like my Jets but the Giants. A guy that everyone blames for the demise of WCW, which, I can see, but he did not have full creative control like people think. We're going to hear the story of Vince Russo, one-time head writer for World Wrestling Federation and World Championship Wrestling, and he will be here talking with us on the Double Axe Handle Smash
podcast.
So till next time, everybody, I'm Metal Ed.
I'm Johnny O.
We out of here.
Hey, ciao.